I stared at the screen for 30 seconds before the words fully registered. My wife of 16 years was planning to bring another man into our house while I was supposedly 3 states away. The conference was next week, and apparently, that was when Lisa felt safe enough to escalate whatever this relationship had become. My name is David Sullivan. I'm 45 years old, senior partner at Sullivan and Associates Financial Planning, where I've spent the last 22 years helping people protect their assets and plan for their futures. I specialize in complex financial structures, estate planning, and asset protection strategies. What Lisa didn't know was that I'd been protecting our own assets for years. I'd found the burner phone by accident, wedged between the cushions of Lisa's reading chair in our bedroom. She'd always been paranoid about leaving her main phone lying around, but apparently managing two phones had become complicated. The device was an older iPhone with a cracked screen, probably bought with cash from some electronics store. The text conversation told a story that made my stomach turn. The contact was saved as M, creative. But scrolling through 3 months of messages, I learned that M was actually Marcus Webb, a divorce attorney whose billboards I'd seen around town. When the husband doesn't know what's coming, that's when we have maximum leverage, one of his texts read. This wasn't just an affair. This was a coordinated attack on everything I'd built. The planning was meticulous. Marcus had been coaching Lisa on how to hide assets, create documentation of emotional abuse, and position herself for a favorable divorce settlement. They'd already opened a joint account at a bank in the Cayman Islands, where Lisa had been slowly transferring money from our household account. Small amounts that wouldn't trigger any automatic alerts. Once David leaves for Chicago, we'll have 4 days to document everything in the house, Lisa had texted 2 weeks ago. You can bring your photographer friend to establish the lifestyle he's been providing. Then we file while he's still traveling. The conference in Chicago was real. I'd been planning to attend the National Association of Financial Planners convention for 6 months. It was a legitimate business trip, speaking on a panel about protecting client assets during divorce proceedings. The irony wasn't lost on me. I screenshot every message, uploaded them to a secure cloud server, and carefully placed the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went downstairs to my home office and began planning the most important financial strategy of my career. The first call was to Tom Martinez, a private investigator I'd worked with on several client cases involving financial fraud. Tom specialized in digital forensics and surveillance, and he owed me a favor after I'd helped him structure his retirement investments. David, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need a complete background check on Marcus Webb, divorce attorney. I also need surveillance on my wife, starting immediately, and Tom, this needs to be absolutely confidential. Personal matter? Very personal. I'll pay your premium rate for priority service. Send me the details. I'll have preliminary information by tomorrow. The second call was to Janet Chen, the best forensic accountant in the state. Janet had helped me uncover hidden assets in dozens of divorce cases over the years. She understood financial manipulation better than anyone I knew. Janet, I need you to audit every account, investment, and asset associated with my wife and me. Look for any irregularities, hidden transfers, or unusual activity. Assume someone with legal training is trying to hide money from me. How far back should I go? Start with the last 6 months, but be prepared to go deeper if you find anything suspicious. I'll need account access and authorization. I'm the primary account holder on everything except her personal checking account. I'll have the paperwork to you by end of business today. The third call was the most important. Richard Hayes was a litigation attorney who specialized in complex divorce cases and financial fraud. He'd been opposing counsel on several cases where my clients were trying to hide assets from their spouses. He was ruthless, methodical, and expensive. Richard, I need to retain you for a divorce case, but there are some unusual circumstances we need to discuss. I'm listening. My wife is planning to divorce me with the help of Marcus Webb. They think I don't know about their relationship or their financial planning. I want to let them proceed with their strategy while we prepare a counterattack. Richard was quiet for a moment. You want to let them think they have the advantage while we build a case against them? Exactly. I think they're committing fraud, and I want to document everything before they realize I know what's happening. This is risky, David. If they file first and establish certain narratives, it could be difficult to overcome. I understand the risks, but I also understand that Marcus Webb has a reputation for aggressive tactics that sometimes cross legal boundaries. I want to give him enough rope to hang himself. That afternoon, I drove to a storage facility across town and rented a unit under my mother's maiden name. I spent the next 3 hours moving important documents, family heirlooms, and sentimental items out of the house. Everything went into fireproof filing cabinets that I'd bought with cash. The items weren't valuable enough to affect any property division, but they were irreplaceable. My father's war medals, my grandmother's jewelry, family photos going back 4 generations. I'd learned from too many clients who'd lost precious family history because they trusted their spouse not to destroy things out of spite. Tom Martinez called me that evening with his preliminary report. "David, you're not going to like what I found. Marcus Webb has been disciplined by the state bar twice in the past 5 years for questionable practices in divorce cases. Both times involved allegations that he helped clients hide assets from their spouses. Any criminal charges?" "No criminal charges, but there are 3 civil lawsuits pending against him. 2 former clients are claiming he misappropriated funds during their divorce proceedings." "What about his relationship with Lisa?" "They've been meeting regularly for about 4 months, usually at his office, but sometimes at a hotel downtown. The frequency increased significantly in the past 6 weeks. I spent the weekend acting completely normal. Lisa and I had dinner at our usual restaurant Friday night, watched a movie Saturday evening, and attended our nephew's birthday party Sunday afternoon. I smiled, made conversation, and pretended I didn't know that my wife was planning to destroy my life." Monday morning, Janet Chen called with her initial findings. "David, someone has been very busy with your accounts. There have been 17 transfers from your household account to an offshore entity over the past 4 months. Total amount is $127,000. 17 transfers? Small amounts, never more than $10,000 at a time. Someone understood the banking regulations about reporting requirements. Can you trace where the money went?" "I'm working on it, but the account is structured through a Cayman Islands shell company. It's going to take some international cooperation to get the details." "Keep digging. I'll cover whatever costs are involved." Tuesday evening, Lisa casually mentioned that she'd probably spend the weekend at her sister's house while I was at the conference. "Jennifer is going through a rough patch with her divorce, and she could use some emotional support." "That's thoughtful of you," I said. "I'll probably extend my trip anyway. There's a client dinner Saturday night that could be valuable for the business." Lisa's face brightened slightly. "Oh, that's perfect. Take all the time you need." Wednesday morning, I received a package from Tom Martinez containing surveillance photos and audio recordings. Marcus Webb and Lisa had met for lunch Tuesday afternoon at a restaurant outside of town. Tom's directional microphone had captured most of their conversation. "David's conference schedule shows he'll be in sessions all day Thursday and Friday." Lisa's voice was clear on the recording. "He has that dinner Saturday night, so he probably won't fly back until Sunday evening." "Perfect," Marcus replied. "I'll bring the photographer Friday morning. We need to document the house, the cars, the art collection, everything that establishes his standard of living. My expert witness can use the photos to calculate lifestyle support requirements." "What about the account in the Caymans?" "I'll have the final transfer authorization ready by Friday. Once we move the remaining funds, he won't be able to touch that money, even if he discovers the account." I listened to the recording 3 times, taking detailed notes. They were planning to steal another $200,000 from our accounts, plus document our home to inflate Lisa's lifestyle claims in the divorce proceedings. This wasn't just adultery, but it was conspiracy to commit fraud. Thursday morning, I called my office and told my assistant I was feeling sick and might not be able to make the trip to Chicago. "Cancel my hotel reservation and let the conference organizers know I won't be speaking on the panel. If anyone needs me, I'll be working from home for the rest of the week." Then I drove to a hotel 15 minutes from our house and checked in under a corporate account that wouldn't appear on any credit card statements Lisa could access. The room had a clear view of our neighborhood, and Tom Martinez had already installed surveillance equipment with remote monitoring capability. Friday morning at 9:47 a.m., I watched Marcus Webb's black BMW pull into my driveway. He was followed by a white van with professional photography services painted on the side. I started recording everything on my phone while Tom's surveillance system captured higher quality video and audio. Lisa met them at the front door wearing a robe and appearing disheveled, as if she'd been crying. The performance was convincing. She looked like a woman who was emotionally traumatized by her husband's behavior. The photographer began documenting everything while Marcus took notes on a legal pad. I watched them spend 3 hours cataloging our possessions, taking photos of every room, and discussing how to present Lisa as a victim of financial abuse. Marcus pointed out expensive items and explained how they could be used to establish my income and spending patterns. "The art collection alone is worth more than $80,000, Marcus said, pointing to paintings we'd bought together over 15 years of marriage. We can argue that he's been hiding assets by investing in non-liquid items that don't appear on financial statements. What about his business? Lisa asked. The business valuation will be key. I have an expert who tends to find hidden income streams that inflate the value of financial planning practices. Even if the numbers are aggressive, it takes months for the opposing side to challenge the valuation. At 2:30 p.m., I watched Lisa and Marcus disappear into our master bedroom. They emerged 45 minutes later, both looking satisfied and relaxed. The photographer had finished his work and was loading equipment back into his van. I waited until 6 p.m. before calling the house from the hotel room. Lisa answered on the third ring, and she sounded genuinely surprised to hear from me. "David, I thought you were in meetings all day." "I am, but I wanted to check in. How are you feeling?" "Oh, just tired. I've been thinking about us a lot lately." "Thinking about us?" "About our future, about whether we're really happy together." "Is there something specific you want to talk about?" "Maybe when you get back from Chicago. I think we need to have an honest conversation about our marriage." "I'd like that," I said. "I'll probably cut the trip short and come home Sunday afternoon instead of Sunday evening." "Oh." There was a pause. "Well, I might still be at Jennifer's. I told her I'd stay through the weekend." "No problem. I'll probably just catch up on some work." Saturday morning, I received a call from Janet Chen with news that made my blood run cold. "David, I've traced the offshore account. It's not just Lisa and Marcus Webb. There are 4 other accounts linked to the same shell company, and all of them appear to be connected to Marcus's divorce clients." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Marcus Webb appears to be running a systematic fraud operation. He helps wives hide assets during divorce proceedings, then keeps a percentage of the hidden money for himself. Your wife isn't his first victim. She's his accomplice." "How much money are we talking about?" "Based on the account activity I can see, probably over $2 million across all the connected accounts." "David, this is a federal crime. We need to involve law enforcement." "Not yet," I said. "I want to catch them in the act of the final transfer. That's dangerous. If they complete the transfer and disappear the money, you might never recover it." "Trust me, Janet, I have a plan." Sunday afternoon, I drove home from the hotel, making sure to arrive at exactly the time I would have if I'd flown back from Chicago. I parked in the driveway, grabbed my suitcase from the trunk, and walked through the front door calling Lisa's name. "Lisa, I'm home early." I found her in the kitchen wearing a casual sundress and looking completely innocent. She seemed genuinely surprised to see me, but not in a guilty way. More like someone who'd been caught off guard by a change in plans. "David, I wasn't expecting you until tonight." "I missed you," I said, setting down my suitcase and walking over to kiss her cheek. "How was your weekend with Jennifer?" "Oh, emotional. She's really struggling with the divorce." "I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe we can have her over for dinner this week." "That's sweet of you." I spent Sunday evening acting completely normal, unpacking my suitcase, asking about her weekend, and discussing plans for the upcoming week. Lisa seemed relaxed and happy, probably because she thought her plan was proceeding smoothly. Monday morning, I waited until Lisa left for her yoga class before calling Richard Hayes. "Richard, it's time. I want you to file for divorce today, and I want fraud charges filed against Marcus Webb." "What's the trigger?" "Janet Chen has documented a systematic fraud operation involving multiple clients. Tom Martinez has video evidence of Lisa and Marcus planning to steal money from our accounts. And I have recordings of them discussing strategies to inflate the value of our assets while hiding money offshore." "This is going to be a complicated case, David." "I know. But we have everything we need to prove fraud, conspiracy, and conversion of marital assets. I want Marcus Webb's legal license suspended, and I want every penny recovered." The next few hours moved quickly. Richard filed divorce papers with a detailed fraud complaint attached. Janet Chen submitted her forensic accounting report to the State Bar Association and the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Tom Martinez provided surveillance evidence to law enforcement. By noon, Marcus Webb's office had been served with a restraining order freezing all his business accounts. By 2 p.m., the State Bar had opened an emergency investigation into his license. By 4 p.m., federal agents were interviewing his other clients about potential fraud. Lisa came home from yoga to find 2 FBI agents and a process server waiting in our driveway. I watched from the living room window as she received the divorce papers and a subpoena to appear before a federal grand jury investigating financial crimes. She walked into the house carrying the legal documents, her face pale and her hands shaking. "David, what is this? Why are there FBI agents in our driveway?" "Those are divorce papers, Lisa. And the agents are here because you and Marcus Webb are under investigation for bank fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. I don't understand. You don't understand that stealing $127,000 from our accounts and hiding it in the Cayman Islands is a federal crime? You don't understand that conspiring with a corrupt attorney to inflate asset values is fraud? Lisa sat down heavily in the kitchen chair where I'd eaten breakfast with her just that morning. How did you find out? I found your burner phone 3 weeks ago. I've been watching you and Marcus plan this entire operation. You've been watching us? Lisa, I'm a financial planner who specializes in asset protection. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $127,000 missing from our accounts? Did you think I wouldn't investigate when my wife started acting secretively? She stared at the divorce papers for a long moment. What happens now? Now you're going to cooperate with the federal investigation. You're going to help them recover every penny that Marcus stole from his other clients. And you're going to hope that your cooperation is enough to avoid serious prison time. And us? There is no us, Lisa. You made that decision when you chose to steal from me instead of simply asking for a divorce. 3 months later, I was sitting in Richard Hayes' office reviewing the final divorce settlement. Marcus Webb had been disbarred and was facing federal charges for running a fraud operation that had stolen over $3.2 million from his clients' spouses. Lisa had agreed to testify against him in exchange for a reduced sentence. The recovery was better than expected, Richard said, sliding a check across his desk. Janet's forensic work helped the FBI trace assets that Marcus had hidden in multiple offshore accounts. Your wife will serve 18 months in minimum security, but she's cooperating fully. What about the other victims? Most of them will recover their money thanks to Lisa's testimony and the evidence you provided. Marcus's assets are being liquidated to cover the damages. I looked at the check for $347,000. Not only everything that had been stolen from me, but my share of recovered assets from Marcus's other fraud victims. I never expected to make money from this. You did good work, David. A lot of people would have confronted their spouse immediately and never uncovered the larger fraud operation. I learned a long time ago that the best way to catch someone cheating is to let them think they're getting away with it. 6 months later, I was having dinner with a client whose husband had been hiding assets during their divorce. She'd hired me to find money that her attorney insisted didn't exist. How did you know to look in overseas accounts? She asked. Experience, I said. People think that hiding money offshore is sophisticated, but it's actually pretty basic once you understand the patterns. You sound like you've seen this before? More often than you'd think. Greed makes people predictable. That evening, I drove home to the house that Lisa and I had shared for 16 years. It felt different now, quieter, cleaner, more like a home than a stage set for someone else's performance. I'd kept the house in the divorce settlement, along with most of our other assets. Lisa's cooperation with the federal investigation had helped her avoid serious prison time, but it hadn't saved her from the financial consequences of fraud. In my home office, I opened the fireproof safe where I kept important documents. Inside was a folder labeled Lessons Learned, notes I'd written during the investigation about protecting assets, recognizing fraud, and understanding the difference between paranoia and preparation. The most important lesson was this: trust isn't about believing someone won't betray you. Trust is about knowing that if they do betray you, you'll be prepared to handle the consequences. I'd built a career helping people plan for their financial futures. I just never expected that the most important plan I'd ever create would be protecting myself from the person I'd trusted most. Some plans work better than others. This one had worked perfectly. Subscribe if you agree.